So we're going to talk now about how to create a healthy eating plan. So we have to first talk about what is a calorie. We've heard about what calories are. Let's talk about it. It's a unit of measurement for energy provided by food. You burn calories by doing the following things. Make sure that you write this down. Just regular body functions cause calories to burn. You eating actually burns calories. Now, of course, the food that you're eating replaces those calories, but just any process that requires energy will burn calories. You sleeping burns calories. You breathing burns calories. Just daily activities, just walking around your house, walking to class, cleaning up your room, anything that you do throughout the day is burning calories. Now, of course, you can burn more calories by exerting your body even more. When you run and you exercise, you're really burning more calories there. And then how do you replace those calories? So you maintain your current weight by balancing calories consumed with calories burned throughout the day. Calories consumed means calories that you eat, right? So you eating food replaces calories, and you existing, right? All of your body functions that require to keep you alive burns calories. Your body's like this engine and it needs fuel, and food is that fuel to keep it going. So if you take in less fuel than you burn, you will shrink over time. And if you take in more, your body stores that extra as fat, as like extra fuel. It's like just in case there is no fuel or food that you're taking in later on in the future. So when you're choosing a healthy eating plan, you always want to try to find what are the nutrient dense foods. At this point, we should have talked about density already. If you have two objects and one's completely filled up with stuff and the other one just the outer shell and then there's nothing in the middle, right? The thing that's completely filled up is more dense, even though they're both the same size. So they have the same volume, but inside one has more stuff inside of it. That's what you want with food. But the stuff inside of it, it's not like you want heavier food. You just want more nutrients inside of it. We talked about what the 6 nutrients are. So the more of those nutrients that are inside of the food, that better that food is for you, because you're going to have to eat something, and you can eat stuff that doesn't do anything for you, or you can eat stuff that has lots of vitamins and minerals and nutrients inside of it. So you want to have nutrient dense foods. The best types of nutrient dense foods out there, talked about this already, would be fruits, vegetables, and like lean proteins. And obviously some like healthy whole grain carbohydrates would be another really good example of what you can have there. So let's talk about empty calories. This would be the opposite of that. This is something that you eat and it, gives you calories, but there's no nutrients in it. Not really. There's barely any. So all of these foods, basically, you could go without, and you can live a very healthy life. And I'm wondering how many of these would be like non-negotiable for you. Like, I have to have them. So calories from solid fats or added sugars. Add calories to food, but very few nutrients, like we were just talking about. So here we go. Cakes, cookies, any kind of pastry or donuts. Donuts do this thing to your body because they have both the fat and the sugar in them, and your body goes crazy for that. So I'm going to go back I'll keep talking. I'll go back to that. So sodas, energy drinks, have a lot of sugar in them, which is sports drinks too, which is great if you're in the middle of a game and you need more energy in the middle of that game. Then a sports drink is perfect. But after the game, you don't really need that sugar anymore. You don't really need to have one afterwards. Same thing with like fruit drinks, a lot of added sugars that are in there. If you have fresh squeezed orange juice, there's not nearly as much sugar as the orange juice that you buy from a container. So let's think about this for a second. If you were, again, I always like to go back to if you were a more primitive hunter-gatherer society, it was so rare that you found something that was super high in sugar, and that's why it tastes amazing. It's to kind of trick your body into having it because it meant survival. So if you were out there, you found honey, for example, super high in sugar. It's like nature's candy that you found. And it would be something that could keep you and your family alive for months, perhaps. If you found a big batch of honey, that was great. If you found something that was super high in fat, that was also great, because that, again, could keep you alive for a really long time by storing up your own body fat if you have high fat foods. But if you were to find something that was both high in fat and high in sugar, your brain goes crazy for those types of things. So it's like hitting the jackpot in terms of staying alive a long time, thinking that you're going to go a long time without eating any food at all. So keep in mind, what are the foods that are super high in fat and sugar? Things like what we just talked about here, things like ice cream, right? Like it's like the holy grail for both of these things, and that's why it tastes so good. Cheese is another example. A lot of solid fat. I love cheese. Pizza, right? Also contain a lot of solid fat, a lot of cheese. And ice cream is just like the number one for both of those things. And of course, a lot of other things that are super high in fat would be like anything with sausages, hot dogs, bacon, ribs, all delicious foods to me, but all foods that you don't want to be like, these should not be your main meals that you're having every single day. It's just going to be too much solid fat that you're taking in. This is a great video that kind of puts in perspective, like what does 200 calories really look like? It could look very different depending on the type of food. So to summarize, vegetables, you can eat a lot of vegetables before you hit 200 calories. Whereas like foods like pizza and a drink from Starbucks, you could have just a tiny bit and already hit your 200 calorie threshold there. So let's talk about how many calories should you have. So if you're a girl between 9 to 13 years of age, roughly it should be somewhere between 1,600 to 2,000 calories. What that means is that's how many calories that you would have to maintain your current weight. If you eat below that, you are potentially going to lose weight. And if you eat above that, you are potentially going to gain weight. It is not. So if you're very active, if you do sports outside of school, then you're probably going to err on the side of like closer to 2,000. Boys, it's a little bit different. They have a slightly higher amount for both of those, 1,800 to 2,200. If you're a fully grown woman at this point, it's closer to 2,000 or perhaps even more. And males, it's a little bit more beyond that. Now, I'm a guy. I'm a little bit above this. Probably the amount that I need is a little bit higher than 2,400 just to maintain my weight. If I want to go on a diet to lose it, I'm going to have to eat less than that every single day. And over time, I will see the results of that. At this point in your life, you probably are not looking to diet to lose weight, most likely, because your body's still growing and you want to make sure that you're going to hit. Most people want to be as tall as they can. So you're going to want to like not go diet too much for unless told you by a doctor, right? If a doctor says or recommends that you could lose some weight, right? If they're the ones that are suggesting that, then that's fine to try out a diet. But at this point, you want to make sure that you grow as tall as you can. So you don't want to be missing out on calories because that could potentially stunt your growth. I'm not going to grow any taller at this point in my life. I'm only going to grow outward bigger if I eat too much food. So I'm somebody that does try to keep track of my calories. You don't always have to. There are ways to track it. There's like apps that you can use. I think there's one called like MyFitnessPal. And there's a couple of other ones where it can just like scan a food and can tell you how many calories inside of it. So that's one way to keep track of it. So let's pretend that you were interested in, let's say, losing some weight. One way that you can do this is by tracking your calories, like we said. But let's say you want to lose 1 pound. That's your goal, lose 1 pound. How many calories is that equal to? 3,500 calories equals 1 pound. 3,500 calories equals a pound. Now remember, you are supposed to eat roughly about 2,000 calories in a day. So in theory, if you went the whole day without eating anything, you wouldn't even lose a pound. Now you may be confused by this. You may be standing on a scale and be like, Mr. J, I see my weight in the morning and it's, let's say, 80 pounds. And then later on in the day, it's 84. Did I gain 4 pounds in a day? The answer is no. If you weigh yourself first thing in the morning, it's probably going to be the lightest that you're going to weigh the whole day because overnight, water leaves through your pores and you actually lose a lot of water weight overnight. And also the first thing you do generally in the morning is go to the bathroom. So you're also losing more body weight, more water that you were holding onto anyway. So a lot of that weight that we're talking about is just water weight. As soon as you start drinking water, you're going to put on that a little bit of a couple extra pounds, and then you'll lose it by the end of the day. So all of those couple extra pounds there doesn't really amount to much. If we're talking about a pound of fat, this is how you were to lose it, and it's by dieting. So 3,500 calories equals 1 pound. So if you wanted to lose 1 pound in a week, how many less calories would you need to eat per day? You weren't expecting math here, were you? But here it is. So I'm curious if you can figure this out. You want to lose 1 pound in a week. There's 7 days in a week. So what would you do? Did you figure out the answer? The answer is 500. Because if you were to eat 500 calories less per day, right? So let's say your daily calorie amount was 2,000. Instead, you would eat 1,500. And then through 7 days, you would be down 3,500 calories, less than you should have, and then that would equal 1 pound. Now, it's not generally recommended to, I'm just doing this to show you the math on it. It's not recommended to lose a pound per week. It's very fast to lose down weight. If you were, if a doctor says that that's okay, again, take their advice over mine. But in general, it's good to space it out and lose weight gradually over a longer period of time. It becomes more of a healthy habit that way. So let's say it this way. If you wanted to lose 1 pound in 2 weeks, what would you do? Can you figure out the math on this one? If your go-to response was to just take the 500 and divide by 2, that is exactly what you could do. And if you do that, the math checks out. You'd have 250 calories. And if you did that over the course of 14 days, that would also equal 3,500. And then that's a little bit easier because you probably wouldn't be as hungry all the time. So if you have 2,000 and now you're down to 1,750, that's probably a little bit more manageable than going with 1,500 calories every day.